Hey everyone, this is a slightly delayed little video on Act 4 of The Tempest. I'm just sorry that it took so long. I know that what you're doing in your quarantine is waiting in your homes for hot Tempest content. But still, I wanted to get this done a few days ago. So if you need an extra minute with your post for Act 4, that's just fine. I have so enjoyed your post so far. I'm really looking forward to reading this last round, and it just makes me wish that we were doing this in person. I think we're just scratching the surface of your really insightful readings of the play. So I'll just say a couple of things now about Act 4. Act 4, I wonder if it took me a little bit longer to get to Act 4, because with a couple of exceptions, it's kind of boring is the wrong word. Shakespeare is never boring. In Act 4, Miranda and Ferdinand are now like have revealed their love to Prospero. Prospero's like, you guys are the best. This was a test all along. I'm so happy you're in love. I'm obsessed with you preserving my daughter's virginity. Here's a weird play in the sky. And there's some parts of that are amazing and parts that are, the wedding mask and the series, and like, I couldn't really focus on it. And I shouldn't admit that, but let's all just admit it to each other. And then there's the part where Stefano, Trinculo, and Caliban get kind of fooled by spirits in fancy clothes, and Caliban is like, let's do a murder. And that's the whole act. It's kind of a transitional act. So I'll talk about a couple of things in the two scenes of maybe it's all just one scene, but the couple of things I want to focus on are Prospero's continued trying to control everything that happens, and there's a kind of beautiful and famous speech where he kind of seems to know inherently that he is not in control, and it's that's the thing I want to look at there. There's a lot of people who read the speech that we're going to talk about as Shakespeare himself saying farewell to his artistic career. The Tempest is the last play he wrote. It's kind of a meditation on letting go of being an artist. And I think it works both ways, but we'll get to it. And then I'll say a couple of things about Prospero and Caliban. So those are my goals for this little short video today. So I'm going to drop myself down. I'm in Act 4, Scene 1. And this is, again, the text that we have. I actually will admit that I don't know how I got these things on the side, but it's fine. So Prospero is like, hey, I'm so glad you guys are in love now. Ferdinand, he says, oh, Ferdinand, do not smile at me that I boast her off. Like, don't tease me that I'm so into how great my daughter is. Like, of course, she's the best, for thou shalt find she will outstrip all praise. She's even better than I'm making her out to be. And Ferdinand is like, yeah, I know, dude. Okay. But then there's this, then as my gift and thine own acquisition, she's a person, sirs, worthily purchased, take my daughter, but if thou dost break her virgin knot before all sanctimonious ceremonies may with full and holy rite be ministered, like, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. There's a couple of things here, like, it makes sense for the time that all of the focus is on, like, what makes Miranda a good person is not that she is excellent, but that she's a virgin. Prospero also finally wants things to be done in the right way, right? So for the succession and the future of the throne, they need to follow all the rules because everybody behind him has broken all the rules, possibly including him giving up his leadership to his brother, which you guys had some really interesting points about. But even here, where he's like doing a dad thing of like, leave my daughter alone until you're actually married, he does it with more threats of like unhappiness and violence, right? If you don't do what I tell you, your marriage will be full of barren hate, sour-eyed disdain, and discord. So basically, he's like, if you guys do it before you're married, Not only will I be upset, but you will be miserable and unhappy for your entire lives. Okay. Um, and Ferdinand's like, hey, we're fine. We're going to be good. We want happiness. Leave us alone. And Prospero both admires them greatly and cannot like leave them alone about it. And then right here he says to Ariel, to Ariel, I want you to go get all your spirits because I'm going to put on a big show in the sky about gods or something. And Prospero says to Ariel right here, I must bestow upon the eyes of this young couple some vanity of mine art. It is my promise, and they expect it from me. So he's basically saying, like, hey, Ariel, these two kids right here expect me to put on a shiny show for them. And it's kind of adorable to me because, sure, they might like a show in the air. Who wouldn't? Your magical dad can make spirits perform plays, but also, like, they are just newly in love. It's possible that they care less about his fancy art show in the sky than he thinks they do. And it seems like on stage this could be played for hilarity. The movie version kind of cut a lot of this stuff out. There was some like fun animation, but this long play between Iris and Ceres, I just wanted to care about it, and I'm just such a bad teacher that I'm admitting to you that I kind of could not get myself to read it. And I I read it, but I couldn't get it to stick with me as a thing to be real interested in. Okay. So I'm going to pause this for a minute and then move on to the somewhat famous speech that Prospero makes. Okay. Okay, so I'm still obviously in Act 4, show in the sky, and then while the play is going on, Prospero's like, oh, that Caliban, like, I forgot, he and those two guys are trying to kill me. And he's super pissed, and it distracts him from his magic and stuff. And so it's about, I don't know, I would say it's about 10 lines, and it gets quoted a lot. He ends the play and apologizes to Ferdinand that he's distracted. And in these couple of lines, even though he's had a tight hold on everything that's happening, it feels to me like he admits, like, oh, all of this is just for show. Like, all of this is just spirits in the air. And even with my tremendous power, everything can be lost. Everything passes. Nothing is as secure as I think it is. And I apologize, this is a heavy theme for these times when we have so little control over everything, but maybe that's why it's sticking out to me. So I'll point to it. Okay, so this is where he remembers, like, oh, can I swear on a video? He's like, look, Caliban, I gotta go get him. And Miranda says, like, he's so upset. I've never seen him so angry. And Prospero realizes he's broken the illusion that he's trying to maintain with Miranda and Ferdinand. And he says, you do look, my son, in a moved sort, as if you were dismayed. Be cheerful, sir. He's like, oh, I have upset you guys. Everything's fine. Be cheerful. Our revels are now ended. This play is done. These are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, right? This vision that I've given you was made out of insubstantial spirits. These are actors who are all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air, and like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a wreck behind. All of this stuff that I showed you, it was just spirits and it was just a show, but it is like so much else in the world, right? Temples, palaces, the great globe itself shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant, this play that I've shown you, it will fade and not leave anything behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded by a sleep, right? And all of our plans, all of our fancies begin and end with this kind of sleep or nothingness. And he kind of gets distracted by this realization, right? For all of my power and all of my hopes, our little life is rounded with a sleep. And then he snaps out of it. Sir, I am vexed. Bear with my weakness. My old brain is troubled. But be not disturbed with my infirmity. And he kind of tells them to go lay down. I don't know. It's a melancholy moment. And we're in such a strange time, but it is both about the kind of fleetingness of art, but also just the fleetingness of all of our plans. And there's a way that can be both very heartbreaking or very comforting, right? It's true of everything. So you can't knock yourself out to prevent it. So this is a funny, by funny, I mean an unusual moment for Prospero, who continues to exert intense control over everything. And he just recognizes for this flash, everything will end, no matter how powerful I am or not. Which will bring us in a minute to Caliban and Prospero, and then I'll wrap up. Okay, so we talked about the wedding pageant, which again, it's I should look at me, I'm so terrible. Anyway, that happens. Prospero remembers Caliban and those guys, I got to take care of them. I got to send Ariel and all my spirits who have been putting on this show to go take care of those nitwits. And he has this moment where he reveals his anger at Caliban. And one of the things he says is, I was so nice to him. I treated him so well. And he's always been evil, and he's always been crazy. And if he allows himself to believe that Caliban was just born this way, and then he is off the hook, right? He does not have to look at his own role in perhaps Caliban's vengeful, unpleasant nature, because he can be like, oh, I tried to give him a house, never mind that he was my slave. I tried to take care of him, and he has betrayed me. And he is so angry about it, right? Which usually means if you're that angry about something, maybe you're trying to deny your own role in a problematic situation. I'm not letting Caliban off the hook. Like, he attacked Miranda in a way that was terrible and for a terrible reason. And so Caliban's not a victim, which I think is really interesting here. But that doesn't mean that Prospero perhaps doesn't bear some responsibility even here, right? He's always like, my brother, my slave, everybody's against me. So and then the next thing I want to talk about is how Caliban and Prospero have some interesting similarities. Okay. So this speech right here, this is after he's kind of like sent everybody away, and he wants Ariel to go trick the guys who have run through the woods now, and they're in a stinky, swampy lake. They're dancing up to their chins in the foul lake, and they're drunk and stuff. Okay. Prospero says, a born devil, right? He was born that way, on whose nurture can never stick. He was always going to be this angry and vengeful and horrible, on whom my pains, my efforts, on whom my pains humanely taken, all lost, all lost, quite lost. And as with age his body uglier grows, so his mind cankers. It will plague them all, even to roaring. So he's like, he was always bad. I tried really hard to be humane to him. And not only was he originally already bad, the older he gets, the crazier he gets. As though all of Caliban's anger directed at Prospero comes from his inherent nature and insanity. Notice that Prospero's actions do not appear in that account. Okay, so he sends Ariel with glittering apparel, give him some clothes, trick him with this stuff. And what happens, and now I'm later in the scene, I'm just, it's easier than scrolling. The spirits that were celebrating the wedding are now tricking these guys with like fancy clothes, and they're like, yeah, let's put them on. We want to look good. We want to look like a king, right? King Stefano, put off that gown. By this hand, I'll have that. So they're fighting over these like pretty clothes. And Caliban is like, what are you guys doing? we have a murder to do. What do you mean to dote on such luggage? Let it alone and do the murder first. Like, I'm not going to be fooled by this nonsense. I want to enact my revenge, and I will not be distracted in the same way, perhaps, that Prospero will not be distracted by nonsense. Well, by his own play, by his daughter, and all that stuff. Be quiet, monster, right? And if you just go down just a little bit, like I think Caliban is, I will have none on it. We shall lose our time and be turned to barnacles or apes with, right? Like Prospero's going to get us, so we need to kill him as soon as possible. And of course, Prospero turns all the glittering things into goblins, and charges the spirits with more torture of these guys, right? Grind their joints with dry convulsions, shorten up their sinews with aged cramps. More pinch spotted make them than pard or catamountain. So anyway, he's like, shows over, torture these guys. Okay. So more torture, more attempts at control, a brief moment where we see Prospero perhaps acknowledge the limits not only of his power, but of his life, that he is mortal, that he is fleeting, and that we are all in a human and mortal condition, which is easier to think about sometimes than at other times. And maybe right now it is too much to think about that, or just the right time to think about that. Okay, I talked too much about Act 4. Please let me know if you have any questions. Act 5, I won't delay so much. And like I said, your posts have been very enjoyable, and it just makes me wish we could explore further all of your great ideas in class. I hope everybody's taking care, and thanks again, as always, for your patience. Okay.